I've had a lot of gear come across my channel here on 555 Gear, but nothing like this. I have an artifact that I believe is proof of extraterrestrial life. So I'm on my way to what can only be described as a portal to another dimension, so that I can speak with one of these intergalactic beings to understand this strange technology.
It's the We Knives Pleroma.
Okay, I'm on site at the alien meeting grounds, and I thought I should show you the piece of alien technology that I am going to be discussing with the alien here. That is this knife. A shout out to Dashboard Reviews. This is the We Knives Pleroma. It is apparently what you get when you send up to outer space the old swayback design from traditional knives, and to let aliens with advanced technology design a knife. Ergonomically, these aliens are different than us in some important ways, but at least it appears that they have approximately similar hands to us, because this knife, according to human standards, would be a pretty good EDC knife in terms of its overall specifications. It's got a blade length here of 2.95 inches, full cutting edge on this Wharncliffe style blade, and then it's an overall length of just under 7 inches, 6.94 inches specifically, and it has a very interesting integral construction here. So obviously we're dealing with some very advanced ideas here in terms of the overall construction of this knife, and the technology making it a folding knife is also advanced as well. It has a very high-end steel here. You can see it's N390 steel, which is a premium steel. Apparently the aliens are working with Bohler, and it's also running on ceramic bearings, which means that this has easily as good of an action as any knife that I've handled. Might be the best thumb stud knife I've ever handled, and yes, I mean that even in comparison to the very best, which let's make a comparison real quick. So here's the We Knives Pleroma. Again, we are looking at an overall length of just under 7 inches, which again, for comparison, if you want to see something similar, this is your Spyderco Delica, kind of a standard comparison knife here. You can see here that the blade to handle ratios on the Pleroma are definitely superior, one of the strengths of this swayback design. And here's another very interesting comparison. So this Pleroma, the aliens have not been cheap in their construction of this Pleroma, as you can see, nor are they cheap in what they're asking for this knife, which is $300, which easily puts you into Sebenza territory. And yes, this is a Knife Art small Sebenza. And I can't help but admit that when I got the Pleroma, I thought of this knife first, because you are getting awfully close to small Sebenza territory. The small Sebenza is definitely the standard bearer of quality American high-end knives. S30 5VN steel frame lock here, beautiful slab of carbon fiber from this Knife Art edition small Sebenza 21. Beautiful finishing all throughout, but is it vastly different than the We Knives Pleroma? No, and actually in many ways it's a much simpler knife, and that's the thing that's crazy here, is that as far as execution of the degree of manufacturing challenge here, the Pleroma is probably a much more difficult knife to produce. At least it's a much more original knife in its conception. And in terms of the overall comparison of quality here, you're not looking at that far off of a difference in the actual manufacturing excellence, and that's really truly mind-blowing. Let's just talk about some ways in which that's evident. So for example, the pivot is more advanced on the Pleroma. The construction of the knife overall is more advanced. The use of bearings is more advanced than the simple washers used on the Sebenza. The tolerances are very similar. And I'm just talking, like, let's look at the quality of the machining there where the screws are. And you can see that perhaps there's a slight edge going to Chris Reeve here, but gosh, it's awfully marginal. In terms of the finishing on the blades themselves, you know, they're remarkably similar. We Knives promotes the Pleroma as a hand-rubbed blade. Sebenza has, of course, its famous stone washing. These knives are finished awfully close in terms of the level of quality. Thumb studs, you know, again, I actually think that I prefer the Pleroma here. The swayback design shape is definitely not nearly as conventional or as traditionally ergonomic as the small Sebenza, which of course is famously versatile and a perfect EDC in that respect. Whereas the Pleroma, just the ergonomics of the hand shape mean that it's going to not necessarily be as practical in ordinary everyday cutting tasks as a more standard blade shape. I was scraping around to try to see if there's any places where the Pleroma does not seem to be at an equal level to the Sebenza, and I was really struggling, and the closest thing is like right here you can kind of feel the transition from the carbon fiber to the integral titanium back. There really aren't any rough spots like that proverbially on the Sebenza, but there aren't any like sort of direct comparisons in terms of where Chris Reeve is being that aggressive. The closest knife that I have that is, you know, sort of trying to do the high-end carbon fiber and titanium in a mass production knife is actually the ZT-0470, and the 0470 definitely has micro defects that are hard to see here, but like for example, you've got some pitting on the edging of this carbon fiber here, and you have imperfections in the carbon fiber itself. See, this is like not the most beautifully marbled carbon fiber right in the middle here. Not to mention, as I discussed in my main review, the pocket clip here is just definitely not as advanced as the sculpted pocket clip, which, by the way, works great. It's a very useful pocket clip. So here's something that's shocking, that this piece of alien technology is instantly in competition with the best that we have to offer here in America, whether it's Chris Reeve or this ZT-0470. This easily holds its own with these knives from a manufacturing standpoint, and you could even say arguably that it bests them because of the ambitious design here. This is doing something much more sophisticated than either of these knives. And yeah, I could get a Benchmade or a Spyderco Integral here on the table, but that almost would be not a fair comparison in terms of materials or in the size execution of this knife, which is clearly meant to be a small EDC knife. So there are ways in which the comparison wouldn't be exact. But I mean, I just challenge you to look at these details closely and try to find ways in which this knife is inferior in its manufacturing excellence. It really felt like I was handling a piece of alien technology when I first got this knife, because it was so foreign to me from my wheelhouse of American EDC knives, and I admit that I'm not, trying the hardest out of the various members in the knife community to stay up on all of the latest overseas production that's going on, and there's an awful lot. But getting this finally in my hands, I had to admit that I was missing out, and that there's something special, really special going on with We Knives with this Pleroma. So that being said, with this main body of the review done, let's get inside to our alien meeting ground and have a conversation with the alien that's going to explain this technology here. Looks like aliens are really into their merch. So I'm sitting here, I'm just nervous waiting for this alien to show up. Oh my gosh, yeah, here he is, he's walking up to me now. I better get the knife out so he knows that he should come talk to me. I come in peace. Hello. What? I thought we were going to talk about the knife. Yeah, I'm doing fine. I've got it so that it's hard to explain. Okay. All right. Wow, what an encounter. That was an out-of-body experience. So anyway, closing thoughts on the We Knives Pleroma. I love this knife. I think it's incredible. And I think it's incredible for more than just the goofy novelty which this video is. I think it does represent best-in-class manufacturing. It has incredible details throughout the knife that I've hardly been able to highlight, but if you've been watching closely, you're sure to appreciate. Do I think that this knife has some negatives or challenges? Well, of course, the price is going to be cost prohibitive for many, and I understand that. But it's worth the price. This is a sophisticated, advanced design, and it's manufactured to an extremely high standard, and it's executed with ultra premium materials, and so it is worth the money. I just don't know how to get around it. That being said, this is clearly appealing to a different class of collector, even than the average high-end manufacturing knife collector, because you have to want this knife because of the design first and the performance second, because regardless of what our little green or gray friends say, the swayback design is not the most practical design. But let's be honest, as soon as you're spending more than, say, 50 or 60 bucks on a knife, you are no longer committed to pure utilitarianism. You might as well have some knives in your collection like this one that are doing something really unique and really cool. And this is much more unique than 90% of the high-end manufactured knives on the market, which are just basically all tie frame locks with some use of carbon fiber for decorative purposes. Whereas this knife, the whole use of materials is built into the intrinsic design themes of this knife. Things that I don't like about the knife, beyond the price tag, which is cost prohibitive, and the design, which is not going to be for everyone. I think this, even though it's beautifully etched, it's very high quality, is just a little much. I would have liked to have this probably about maybe 2/3 of the size that it is, or maybe somewhere else. I love the subtle M390 steel identification on the bottom side of the blade tang. This maybe could have gone somewhere else even more subtle. I don't know, like back here or something. Not sure exactly. I didn't take this knife apart. I can't speak to that. This is a pass-around knife that I received from the Apex Knife Pass-Around Group, a group of knife enthusiasts and collectors who are sharing knives for the purpose of review. And when I received this knife, I would say that it had a working edge on it, but definitely not the sharpest knife that I've received, presumably because previous guys in this Apex Pass-Around group have done other cutting tests with this knife, which I did some basic food cutting tests and did some other, it's like around the house opening boxes type of stuff. And as I explained very briefly, the ergonomics of this knife, put your hand in kind of an awkward position for some types of what would otherwise be very standard types of draw cuts and ordinary cutting purposes. But it's worth it for the cool design. I mean, this is just absolutely fabulous, and a very coherent, exciting, unique execution of the swayback. This is easily the most advanced swayback ever made. Guys, this knife was plurified by We Knives for the Apex Pass Around group. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this knife, if it's one that you would consider adding to your collection. I'd like to thank We Knives for giving this knife to the Apex Knives Pass Around group so that I could get my hands on it. I'll tell you what, I don't have $300 sitting around for this knife at this present moment, but I do intend to get this knife in my collection somehow. Guys, leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this encounter. And let me know what you think of the Pleroma in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching.